August 1944, the French countryside. Inside a dimly lit bunker, German High Command stared at the map with trembling hands. Red arrows swept across France like blood spreading through water. Patton's Third Army, unstoppable, merciless, faster than anything they'd ever seen. Towns fell before breakfast. Entire divisions vanished by lunch. The American tide wasn't just advancing, it was devouring everything in its path. Then came the desperate order, the one that would change everything. Deploy the Tigers. 72 of them, Germany's nightmare machines. Each one a rolling fortress of death. 56 tons of pure terror wrapped in steel armor, so thick that Allied shells bounced off like pebbles. And that gun, that devastating 88mm cannon that could tear through any Allied tank from distances, where they couldn't even scratch the Tigers' paint. These weren't just tanks, they were legends, monsters that haunted Allied soldiers' dreams. A single Tiger could stop an entire column dead in its tracks. American Sherman crews whispered stories about them in the dark, each tale more terrifying than the last. The math was brutal and simple. It took 4, sometimes 5 Shermans to kill one Tiger, and the Tiger would destroy 3 or 4 of them before it fell. German propaganda called them invincible. Allied soldiers believed it. On paper, 72 Tigers should have been a death sentence for Patton's advance. They should have stopped him cold, bought Germany time, maybe even turned the tide. But what happened instead would shatter the myth forever. By the time the smoke cleared, fewer than 10 Tigers survived. The rest, destroyed, abandoned, captured. Burning wrecks scattered across the French countryside like tombstones, and Patton, he never even slowed down. This is the story of how the Invincible died, how America's determination and tactics destroyed Germany's ultimate weapon. But first, you need to understand what made these steel beasts so terrifying. The Panzer II Tiger was engineered for one purpose: domination. Its armor was impenetrable from the front. Its gun could kill at ranges where Allied tanks couldn't even see it clearly. Tiger crews went into battle knowing they were nearly untouchable. But here's what the propaganda never mentioned. Tigers had a dark secret. Actually, they had several. They were slow, painfully slow. Maximum speed on good roads was 25 miles per hour. And that was optimistic. Soft. Even worse. They couldn't chase. They couldn't pursue. They were predators that could only wait and ambush. They broke down constantly. That complex transmission and powerful engine. Maintenance nightmares. For every Tiger destroyed in combat, another was abandoned because it simply stopped working. They drank fuel like water, less than 1 mile per gallon. In 1944, when Germany was desperately short on fuel, Tigers could run dry before even reaching the battlefield. And most critically, Tigers were designed for defense. Fold down behind cover, firing at long range. They were nearly unstoppable. But force them to maneuver, make them react quickly. Their advantages vanished like smoke. The Germans knew these weaknesses, but by August 1944, they were drowning. Patton's advance was so fast that nothing conventional could stop it. They needed their superweapon. They needed to believe in miracles, so they committed nearly a full battalion. 72 Tigers positioned them perfectly. Set the trap. It should have worked. It didn't. Because while other Allied commanders feared Tigers, Patton had learned how to hunt them.
While other commanders trembled at the mere mention of Tigers, Patton studied them obsessively. He knew something others didn't. Superior technology means nothing if you refuse to fight on its terms. Patton's anti-Tiger tactics weren't just strategies. They were a declaration of war against conventional thinking. 5 principles that would turn Germany's advantage into their doom. First, never fight them on their terms. Tigers wanted long-range duels where their superior gun ruled everything. So don't give them that fight. Use terrain, use smoke, use maneuver. Close the distance. Attack from angles where their armor weakened. Make them uncomfortable. Second, overwhelm them with combined arms. Tigers were nearly invincible against other tanks, but vulnerable to everything else. Artillery could suppress them. Aircraft could hunt them. Infantry with anti-tank weapons could ambush them. Coordinate everything simultaneously. Make them face threats from every direction at once. Third, strangle their supply lines. Tigers needed constant fuel and ammunition. They were maintenance disasters waiting to happen. Find their supply dumps. Bomb their fuel convoys. Force them to move. Watch them break down without firing a single shot. Never stop moving. Tigers were defensive weapons built to hold ground. If you stayed still, they'd find you and destroy you at their leisure. But if you kept advancing, kept them off balance, forced them to constantly reposition, their mechanical weaknesses would do half your work. Fifth, accept casualties. This was the harsh truth others couldn't stomach. Yes, fighting Tigers would cost American tanks and lives. But avoiding them cost something more precious: time. And time gave Germans room to prepare better defenses. Better to take losses and keep moving than stop and let them fortify. Patton drilled these principles relentlessly into his commanders. Tank commanders were forbidden to retreat when encountering Tigers. Artillery officers trained to respond within minutes to Tiger sightings. Fighter-bomber pilots got priority for anti-tank missions. The result? Patton's Third Army didn't just fight Tigers differently. They hunted them. Late August 1944. The location matters less than what was about to unfold. German intelligence had done everything right. They'd identified where Patton would advance. Position Tigers in perfect defensive positions along likely routes. Hull down behind terrain. Features: guns covering open ground where American armor would have to cross. It was textbook. Perfect employment of heavy armor. American tanks would advance across open ground. Tigers would massacre them at long range. The advance would stall. Germans would establish a proper defensive line. That's what should have happened. Instead, Patton's reconnaissance spotted the Tigers before the main force arrived. Within hours, everything changed. Patton reorganized his entire advance. Multiple columns. Different routes. Constant movement. A fluid, shifting target impossible to pin down. When American forces encountered the Tigers, they did something unexpected. They didn't try to fight them head-on. They called in artillery. Not just a few guns. Massive amounts of artillery. The shells couldn't penetrate Tiger armor, but they didn't need to. The bombardment forced Tiger crews to button up, close hatches, lose visibility. Blind steel coffins waiting for what came next. While Tigers were being shelled, American tank destroyers moved like wolves into flanking positions, faster than Shermans. Bigger guns specifically designed to kill German armor. To survive a fair fight. They were trying to get side shots where Tiger armor was weakest. Then the sky opened up. P-47 Thunderbolts screened down from the clouds, carrying rockets and bombs. They couldn't always destroy Tigers from above, but they could damage tracks, force crews to abandon positions, and most importantly, add to the chaos. German Tiger crews suddenly found themselves in hell. Artillery from one direction. Tank destroyers maneuvering on their flanks. Aircraft diving Tiger through a track trying to reposition under artillery fire. Immobilized. Helpless. The crew abandoned it before American forces even arrived. Another ran out of fuel because Patton's fighter bombers had destroyed its supply convoy 20 miles back. The crew tried towing it with another Tiger. Both broke down. Both abandoned. 3 Tigers were destroyed by tank destroyers that flanked their position while they engaged. Shermans to their front. Side armor penetrated. Ammunition exploded. Catastrophic kills. 2 Tigers were hit by P-47 rockets. One lost its track and was abandoned. The other took a rocket through the engine deck, starting a fire that forced the crew to choose between burning alive or surrendering. Here's the terrifying part. All of this happened in less than 6 hours. German commanders had positioned Tigers to hold for days. They lasted hours, because Patton didn't stop. He didn't pause to consolidate. He didn't pull back to plan a careful assault. He called in everything and kept his main force advancing like a steel avalanche that couldn't be stopped. By nightfall of the first day, over 20 Tigers were destroyed or abandoned. The remaining German crews were shattered. They'd gone into battle expecting to dominate. Instead, they were being hunted from multiple directions by an enemy that wouldn't stop or slow down. Desperate requests went out for infantry support, air cover, better artillery communication. But Patton's advance had disrupted German command and control. Requests were delayed or went unanswered. Tigers that were supposed to be the centerpiece of a coordinated defense were fighting isolated, unsupported battles. Dying alone. The second day was worse. American forces had learned where Tigers were positioned. Artillery targeted those positions before dawn. Tank destroyers moved into ambush positions during the night, invisible predators waiting in the darkness. When Tigers tried to reposition at first light, they were already bracketed. Already dead, they just didn't know it yet. More Tigers fell to mechanical breakdowns. The constant movement, the stress on crews, the lack of maintenance facilities, it all took its toll. Tigers that could have fought effectively from prepared positions broke down during movement. By the end of the second day, German commanders realized the horrifying truth. The Tiger deployment had failed. Not because Tigers were bad tanks. They weren't. But because Patton's tactics and tempo had turned their strengths into liabilities. Every advantage became a weakness. Every strength became a chain dragging them to destruction. On the third day, the order finally came. Withdraw. But withdrawing Tigers faced all the same problems. The retreat was a nightmare in combat. Tigers were slow. American forces were faster. Tigers trying to withdraw were caught by pursuing tank destroyers and destroyed from behind where their armor was weakest. Killed while running away. They needed fuel. Supply lines were disrupted. Some Tigers ran out of fuel during the retreat and were blown up by their own crews to prevent capture. German soldiers destroying their own miracle weapons just to keep them from American hands. They broke down. Mechanical stress from combat and rapid repositioning caused transmission failures, engine problems, track breaks. Disabled Tigers littered the retreat route like fallen giants. And through it all, Patton's forces never let up. American artillery hammered retreat routes. Fighter bombers strafed German columns. Tank destroyers harassed the flanks of any German force trying to establish a rear guard. This was Patton's doctrine in action. Never let the enemy recover, never give them time to regroup, push constantly. Keep the pressure on. Make retreat as costly as defense. One captured German officer later told interrogators something chilling. We expected a battle. What we got was a pursuit. Your forces never stopped long enough for us to establish a defensive position. That was the genius of Patton's approach. He understood Tigers were most dangerous when static and prepared. So he made sure they were never static, never prepared, always reacting, always under pressure, always dying. By the time surviving Tigers managed to withdraw beyond Patton's immediate area, the count was devastating. Of the 72 Tigers committed to stop Patton's advance, fewer than 10 were operational. The rest, destroyed in combat. Abandoned due to mechanical failure, captured by American forces, or blown up by their own crews. The road ahead of Patton's Third Army lay wide open. The superweapon that was supposed to stop him hadn't even slowed him down. So what went wrong? How did Germany's most feared weapon fail so completely? The answer reveals truths about warfare that echo through history. Superior technology doesn't guarantee victory. Tigers were better tanks than Shermans in almost every specification. But warfare isn't a technical competition. It's about systems, tactics, execution. Tactics beats specifications. Patton's combined arms approach overwhelmed the Tigers' individual superiority. One Tiger was better than one Sherman. But one Tiger couldn't handle simultaneous threats from artillery, aircraft, and multiple ground units. Speed matters more than firepower. Tigers could destroy more American tanks per engagement, but Patton's forces moved so fast that Tigers couldn't leverage their firepower advantage consistently. Logistics determine effectiveness. Patton's advance disrupted German supply lines not because they were destroyed, but because they couldn't be supported. Psychology is decisive. Tiger crews went into battle expecting to dominate. When they found themselves hunted, suppressed, and destroyed in ways they weren't prepared for, their effectiveness collapsed. After the battle, captured German tank crews all said the same thing. They hadn't been defeated by better tanks. American Shermans were still inferior in direct combat. They'd been defeated by better tactics and better coordination. One German tank commander said it perfectly: "We never fought the same enemy twice. First artillery, then aircraft, then tank destroyers, then infantry. By the time we oriented to one threat, two more appeared. We could not fight effectively when everything was happening at once." That was Patton's doctrine. Everything at once, all the time, never stopping. 72 Tigers, Germany's superweapon. Fewer than 10 survived. The myth of invincible Tigers died in the French countryside. And Patton never looked back.